All right, welcome back to the show. Want to thank everyone for watching, for listening. It seems every week I get at least a few new people that one I don't even know that are listening to the show. I don't know them personally at all. They just reach out, and that's pretty cool that the podcast is starting to, I guess, get to other folks that aren't in my network, aren't in my circle, which is pretty cool, which is kind of the whole idea of this podcast was to give back. I don't have a coaching program as of yet. As of now, I don't have a community as of yet, as of now. So this is basically my community, and it's everything I'm doing is I'm giving away for free. And a lot of the value is coming from the guests that we have on. I enjoy having these one-off episodes by myself. Some of it's to kind of go on rants, and this one might be a little bit of a rant, but also provide some value. But the guests that we've been having on have just been absolutely awesome. Ton of value. And I want to hear about that value. I want to hear from you guys. So feel free to reach out. You go to l4investing.com. I am working on a podcast website and a little bit more social media. So we are working on some things there to try to extend our reach through the podcast and YouTube. So with that said, let's kind of get it into what I want to talk about today. And I keep seeing this, and I don't, not these gurus or these educators or whatever are right or wrong, but I keep seeing that these gurus, real estate gurus, are saying that if you made it through this downturn, you're good. You're kind of over the mountaintop, and now we're, everything should open up from here, and deals should be easier to get done. Current deals that you have should be easier. You kind of made it through, the swamp here of a downturn. I don't know that I don't know if I agree with that. If it was a downturn, I think it was a little blip. I don't think it was that much, at least when it comes to self-storage. Now, others can argue that interest rates obviously went up, and if you had to do a refinance, and that's going to be part of this show too, if you had to do a refinance or have to sell a property or have to get out of property in any way, it may have been harder than it was 3 years ago. But I don't know if this was so much of a downturn. I think there's probably more pain coming, unfortunately. And actually, last podcast, we kind of talked about that, but we'll see. But with all that said, what I want to talk about is the number one aspect why your deal will work or won't work, and that's cash flow. I see way too many people, and this is, listen, I'm going to pick on the gurus because they're the ones teaching people. They're probably not doing deals themselves. They're just making money off education, which, listen, if you're good at it, awesome. You're putting the word out there. You're putting great information out there. That's absolutely awesome. There's a lot of bad ones out there. They're just trying to grab money. And sometimes it's hard to figure out who's good and who's bad. So, to find out who's good, are they doing deals? Are they currently doing deals? If they're not, man, I don't know. I would probably try to find someone else. Just because if they're not doing deals, how can they update you on new technology, the market shifts? Just there's so many nuances there that if you're not doing it, if you're not in it day to day, investing in real estate, I don't know how you can teach others. Anyways, cash flow is number one. Okay. And these gurus, a lot of gurus are kind of teaching, get in these deals, raise money, syndicate, private money, hard money, whatever it is, get in these deals, essentially 100% leveraged, and then flip them by either selling them or refinancing in 12 to 36 months, which I think is a great strategy. However, I think you should start with cash flow. You have to stack cash flow. If you don't have a portfolio already, other properties that cash flow for you, then in my opinion, again, this is all my opinion. This isn't, this isn't in stone. There are people that make it work both ways. But in my opinion, I've seen a lot of people that have been hurt past couple years because they're in these deals that had short-term debt that had some type of investors. They syndicated, that had private money, hard money, whatever. And those short-term loans are coming due. And now they have to either sell the property or they have to refinance. And it didn't cash flow for them, or maybe it did a little bit. But the biggest thing is cash flow. You have to cash flow, and your portfolio has to cash flow before you start doing those deals, in my opinion. So I'm 10 years into real estate investing. My first 4 or 5 deals were single family. I really didn't cash flow. I thought I cash flowed about $1,000 a month. If I would have hung on to those for another probably 2 years, all that cash flow, which wasn't much, we're talking basically $12,000 a year. That cash flow would have been sucked up in the next 2 years just with CapEx, real estate taxes going up, insurance going up, all those things. So I really didn't, if I would have hung on to those, the cash flow wasn't really there. All right. So when you're looking at deals, make sure you're not just cash flowing for year 1, but you're cash flowing year 5, year 7, year 10. And that's how you create a strong investment base on your portfolio, right? You can't, and again, some people have done it, but in my opinion, I think you've got to start with a strong cash flow portfolio, and then you can start taking some chances here and there by syndicating, raising money, doing deals that you hope to value, that hope to go up in value, maybe double, triple in value over 12 to 24 months. That's fine, but you got to have the cash flow first. The other thing kind of related to this is, especially self-storage, I see a lot of bad partnerships in small deals. So you may see 2, 3, 4 partners on a 15, 20,000 square foot storage facility. From what I've seen, that's not enough meat on the bone for anybody. Somehow you got to figure out to do it by yourself or maybe one partner. But to have 3 or 4 and you own 10% here, 15% there, man, to me, it seems like if there is a downturn at some point or a glitch or whatever, you're kind of staying on a house of cards. Now, again, if you've got a portfolio underneath you that's cash flowing, that's strong, and can weather that storm, and maybe you have a few of those deals that you're partnered with other people, maybe that works, right? But again, I've just seen too many people get into too many tiny deals with too many partners, and that's back to, do you have cash flow? More likely, those partners aren't cash flowing. Even if it's $3,000 a month for 3 or 4 partners, you're not really cash flowing. It's $1,000 a month. That's probably not worth your time. Now, if you think there's value add there to where maybe you can add more buildings, add a ton of parking or something like that, and truly double the value in a couple of years, look at that. But I see too many people going in thinking they can, for self-storage, well, and multifamily too, thinking they can just raise rents. And in 2 years, they'll be fine. They don't have to cash flow. But in 12 to 24 months, they're going to raise rents. They're going to refinance, and all is good. It's a tough game to play. Again, you can do it. There are people doing it, but you have to have a base of a strong portfolio that's cash flowing. And I guess one more point is make sure you're accurately counting all your expenses. And so everything, right? And I know when I started off with self-storage, I was not accounting for credit card fees, which I think I'm paying 3.3% right now. Now I'm switching, and that's going to be a point lower or so. But I didn't account for that at all the first couple of years that I was underwriting deals. And then I realized, this line item that was only a couple $100 a month has now grown to, I don't even know what I'm paying now, $7,000-8,000 a month in credit card fees. That adds up pretty quick. Okay, so now I'm underwriting those in my deals. Another one that's probably often overlooked is real estate taxes. Those go up. Insurance goes up. You got to factor in for that. You can't always depend on your rental rates increasing every year. Hopefully they do, but at some point we're going to have a downturn, and technically we probably had somewhat of a small one past 18, 24 months. I know in self-storage, we kind of did. Rates went down a little bit. They weren't necessarily increasing. So yeah, you've got to account for that. What else am I missing? I'm sure I'm missing some other expenses, but make sure advertising was another one that I didn't account for the first couple of years. Mainly because I was in small towns, still in small towns. Facilities I've bought for the most part have been 100% full. So I haven't really had to go out, at least initially, and try to fill these things with heavy advertising. Now, again, we did have a little bit of a downturn here with self-storage, and not as many occupancies drop. So we've had to work harder, which means spending more on advertising. You've got to factor that in. And there's other, I'm not going to go through the whole list of expenses, but make sure your expenses are dialed in and make sure they're increasing over time. If you think your expenses are going to be the same now as they are 5 years from now, it's not happening. It's not happening. Insurance is definitely going up. Real estate taxes are going up. Your software you're using will probably go up. So all these factors will continue to increase. And this is probably another point of where I think it's very important to scale and scale smartly and not just have one or two or three rental properties, whether that's self-storage, multifamily, whatever, because you're banking on, there's a lot of risk with not a lot of upside there. If I look at my portfolio, if I was only in one or two markets, I'd be scared to death right now. Fortunately, I'm in, I think, 7 or 8 markets. So when I have a market that's down, typically I've got a couple other markets that are trending up, and vice versa. So it is important to scale. But to scale, in my opinion, you've got to start with strong cash flow. You have to cash flow, okay? People keep saying those deals are hard to find. They're out there. I do think there's some power in taking your first few deals down by yourself, which means putting your own money, your own capital as a down payment. It just protects you in the long run. You're probably going to get a better return with your money than anywhere else. And you're building a very strong foundation for your portfolio. So again, cash flow, number one, you got a cash flow. It's very important. And then if you want to start doing deals that are syndications that are basically 100% leveraged day one, and you see them as value add in 12, 24, 36 months, awesome. You've got a strong base of cash flow. Now you can go kind of do riskier deals. But my opinion, don't start there. Start with cash flow. You got to start stacking cash flow, strong cash flow, then build your portfolio with syndicating if you want. Again, appreciate everyone listening. I appreciate especially these one-off interviews, you guys listening and paying attention, because a lot of times I feel like I'm just ranting and getting things off my chest. But hopefully there's value too. And as simple as this episode was, being you need the cash flow, a lot of investors and very experienced investors and a lot of gurus that you see on Facebook, Instagram that you think have things figured out, they don't have it figured out. They don't have the cash flow figured out. They may be cash flow in other areas such as social media or the education programs. They're probably not cash flowing as well as what you may think with their real estate portfolio. So again, appreciate you listening, watching. Please share the podcast if you find it valuable and give me feedback. I want feedback. Let me know if you want to hear about any topics, any speakers you'd like for me to have on, and appreciate you guys listening. See you next time.
Thanks for following, subscribing, and listening to this episode of the Do More podcast hosted by John Farling. To learn more or ask questions, go to l4investing.com.